Hello, 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 and welcome back to DLA Alternative. It's your boy Brandon, and I hope everyone is doing phenomenal, and I hope everyone had an amazing Christmas and got lots of Stranger Things gifts. This one is going to be one that I've wanted to do for quite some time now, and this is going to talk about the liar of all liars in this show, Little Miss Aunt Becky. Yes, I think she is such a liar, and I don't think anything that she has told us throughout this entire show, each time we've seen her, has been truthful whatsoever. So we're going to jump in, we're going to analyze her through each episode that she's in and every time we see her, and then I want you guys to decide yourselves in the comments if she is a liar or if she is being truthful. I don't think she's truthful whatsoever, but let's analyze it and let's see what happens. All right, first things first. The very first time that we see Little Miss Aunt Becky is when Hopper and Joyce are going there. It is season 1, chapter 6, The Monster. It's when they're going to Mama's house to investigate and try and figure out info, trying to find Will because he is still vanished and they are trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. So basically they go to her house and they're going to investigate, and they knock on the door and Little Miss Aunt Becky opens the door, sus as fuck. And basically they ask if they could speak to Terry Ives, and she wants to know who they are. And Hopper basically says that he's the chief of Hawkins Police, and basically the way she looks at them is very odd, and she does not want to tell them right away. But the way she says this is so extremely sus, and she goes, "What, you want to talk to my sister?" And then Hopper goes, "Well, if that's your sister, yes, I want to talk to her." So then she lets them in. And she basically lets them in, still sus as fuck, and she says, "Well, you're about 5 years too late." So that's a little bit of a timestamp and a timeline based off of when everything supposedly happened with Mama, according to her. It's been 5 years since that happened. But everything that comes out this woman's mouth is a lie. There's only one thing that I want you guys to pay attention to that I have no idea if it's important or not. I want you to look at this necklace that she has on. She has this ring around her neck, okay? And I have no idea if this has any importance at all, but I want to keep in mind that they do use the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit as a reference, and it's a little odd that they only show this necklace this one time and one other time, and that's later when we see her with Elle. So I want you to keep in mind that that ring around her neck is a little odd, so let me know your thoughts about that as well. But right off the bat, she is extremely sus, and she does not want to let them in, and she doesn't even know why they would be there. So just keep that in mind, that she's extremely weird, and she says that weird thing about, "Oh, you want to speak to my sister?" Like, she makes it a thing that why do you want to talk to her, and then she has to make it known that it's her sister. So it's a little odd right off the bat. But then they walk in and she shows them Terry, and they start to talk to her, and Terry is aware at this point. She's not doing her repeat stuff with the rainbow and the 3 to the right, 4 to the left shit. She is aware at this point in time, and she knows that they are there, because when they start talking, she's kind of ignoring them until Joyce walks up and she shows the picture of Will. And when Terry looks at that, you can tell she is aware and that she notices it, but she kind of looks a little bit sad, yet a little bit annoyed. And Becky's basically standing back there just watching this all go down, not saying shit. And then Hopper all of a sudden says, "What's wrong with her?" And she basically says, "I told you, you're not going to get much out of her." So with all that being said, right up until this point, there's not a lot that's going on. It's not that crazy. However, she is giving me extremely sus vibes, and I want to know your thoughts down in the comments right now if she is giving you sus vibes right off the bat. So let me know. The only thing I noticed that's a little bit odd in this scene, okay, and you might not have noticed it, or maybe you did, is these books sitting right next to Mama. They say bonsai, okay? And we don't know anything about bonsai whatsoever in this show, but we do. And that is at the very opening scene of season 4, when we are seeing that Brenner is still alive and he's doing his crossword puzzle, okay? At one point in that scene, he starts cutting a bonsai tree. So you tell me why the fuck there are books based off bonsai sitting right next to Mama, and we don't know anything about that until season 4, and it's associated with Dr. Brenner. And it's when the big reveal happens that Brenner is still alive. So it's a little odd about that as well. So this is where you got to start keeping in mind that we do know a little bit more about Mama and what has happened with Mama at this point, okay? So it's a little bit cheating, but this is why we are reanalyzing this, okay? So during this conversation, we would have not known this yet at the very beginning of this show. However, now we should know that Becky is lying through her fucking teeth through this entire scene, okay? This is when Hopper and Joyce are talking at the kitchen table, all right? And she's going over and she starts talking about MK Ultra and all that. And then she basically says straight up that the drugs that they used in MK Ultra is what fucked her up. And that's a bullshit lie. And we know that straight away because we know what happened with Mama and we know Becky was there. And the thing that I want you to keep in mind is that I really don't even think that this is Mama's sister whatsoever. I don't think Mama is actually Terry Ives. I think she's Alice Creel, and I have other theories associated with that, so go check those out. However, I really think that this lady is working for Hawkins Lab because her story does not flow anytime that you hear her talk about anything, even after we see her with Elle later on. You will start noticing that everything she says is a bullshit lie. So basically, she is talking about this MK Ultra, and she straight up says that the drugs is what did it. But then they start talking about the baby, okay? And she basically says that Terry miscarried in the 3rd trimester, so that there is no baby. And Hopper and Joyce are extremely confused at this point. They don't really understand it, okay? So basically, it jumps to the next scene after they're extremely confused. And she takes them into Jane's bedroom. And when they enter this room, she says that Terry has had this room there for 12 years. So based off her first timestamp and based off of this timestamp, that 11 should be about 12 years old, okay? Or Jane should be about 12 years old at this point. And basically that when she was 7, that's when everything happened with Terry, based off of her timelines. And kind of what we see in Terry's flashback, it kind of makes sense. She does kind of look about 7 years old. However, we really don't know if she was going for 11 or if she was going for Kali in that scene. They never make that very clear. So with that being said, we jump into this, and that's when she starts to get a little fucking odd. And she starts explaining more about what MK Ultra is and what Terry really thinks happened to her child, that the people from Hawkins Lab stole her child to go and use her to fight the commies because she has telekinetic powers, okay? And she tries to make this sound like a big fucking joke. And she tries to make it seem like, oh, it's just like a Stephen King book, all right? Something like Carrie or whatever. And they are extremely confused still. And you can tell Hopper is not buying this 100%. And he proves that because after they get to a certain point in the conversation, he basically says, well, Hawkins Lab could have covered it up, right? And she looks at him and basically says, you and Terry would have gotten along. And that is kind of a hint, in my opinion, in foreshadowing that, yes, Terry was onto something and Terry was correct the entire time. We kind of obviously already know that. But that kind of confirms that she tries to stray away from the fact that she could have any involvement with Hawkins Lab and knowing that they could cover some shit up. She tries to stray away through this entire conversation, and the reason being is because Hopper is a motherfucking cop, and she doesn't want to let cops know if she's involved with something. There's no reason she should be lying to a police officer if she is really Terry's sister, okay? It makes no fucking sense that if she is really her sister and she is really on her side, why would she lie to a cop who's trying to do better for this community and do better by trying to help and maybe find her child as well as finding Joyce's missing child? Why would she not want to help unless she's involved with something? So everything happens throughout season 1 and about halfway through season 2, and we do not see the liar Little Miss Aunt Becky or Mama for quite some time. And the very next time we see her is when Elle runs away, and she's not supposed to be stupid, but she ends up running away, and she goes to see Mama, and she goes to meet who she thinks is her mom. And yes, I truly do think that it is her mom. How I said earlier that we don't know if she was going for Kali or if she was going for 11. But keep that in mind that we really don't know which child she was going for in that scene. They do not make that clear whatsoever. And I really have a feeling that there's going to be a reason for that. And there's going to be some sort of confusion as to why Kali was involved with Mama whatsoever. However, the next time we see Mama is when 11 goes there and And Aunt Becky answers the door again, and she is extremely different this time. She's not answering the door for adults. She's answering the door for some random child that she does not even believe is real, okay? But in her mind, this is just some random kid knocking on the door, probably trying to sell something. And she makes that very clear that she's not buying whatever she's selling. And she slams the door in her face, okay? And that's when 11 doesn't even fucking know what's going on because she thinks she's just going to be welcomed into this house right away. She doesn't understand what's going on whatsoever, and you can tell. So she opens the fucking door herself and scares the living shit out of this woman because you can tell on her face that this woman did not expect that shit to happen. So right after that is when Becky is scared to her fucking britches, and she basically just lets 11 walk in, and 11 meets Mama for the first time. And Mama is not aware during this moment, okay? And keep that in mind that she is doing her repeat thing during this moment. And I have this thought that when Mama is doing that she is mind flying and she is in her mindset how we've seen her in that dark space. I truly think that that's what she's doing when she's doing her repeat thing, is she's in her mindset, mind flying and doing something within her mindset. I do not know the answer to that yet, but we will try and figure that out as well. But when she's doing that, she's not there in the present, and 11 sort of knows that. And she turns around and she asks Becky what's wrong with her. And Becky doesn't say a fucking word. She doesn't say anything like how she was acting with Hopper and Joyce. That's the thing you got to keep in mind, is she's acting extremely different because she's scared in this moment. She was not scared of Hopper or Joyce before in the last time we seen her. So she's scared of 11 because she doesn't know how she opened the front door like that, and she doesn't know what she's capable of. So she doesn't say a word. And then we jump to the scene when they are talking at the kitchen table, and Becky's a little more calmed down because 11 is just extremely upset and she cannot take her eyes off Mama. She wants to know what's going on and why she's like that, okay? So Becky is a little more calm during this scene, and she's trying to get answers now. She's trying to figure out who 11 is, and she truly doesn't believe that she is 11 or Jane or whatever the fuck. She truly doesn't believe it, and you can tell the entire time. 11 is just looking at Mama, and she's asking all these questions to 11, and 11's not answering. And then all of a sudden, Becky says that line that connects all the way back to the Alice Creel theory. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. But she says the line that basically she's in a dream, in a long dream, okay? And then 11 says, is it a good dream? All right. And Becky says the phrase that they don't know. She says the word they. Okay. And I'm assuming that she's talking about the doctors, this, that. All right. But this is where it gets weird, and keep this in mind. Then 11 asked her, well, is it the same dream? Because she keeps repeating herself, and that's what she's talking about. All right. But then Becky slips the fuck up, and she says, we don't know. Okay, why does she go from they don't know to we don't know? Because the term we now involves her in this situation, and that she's involved with the fact that she knows what happened to Terry. That, in my mind, is a hint 100% and a slip up from this woman that she is involved with what happened to Terry or with what happened to Mama. And I want to know your thoughts about that down in the comments right there. Do you think that was a slip up? Because she says they don't know, and then she involves herself when she says we don't know. So I want to know your thoughts. So the next time is when the liar, Little Miss Aunt Becky, shows 11 her bedroom, okay? And she's still trying to get some info fucking out of her. And she's trying to make her feel at home. And she's saying, well, you could stay here with me, but I need you to talk to me, okay? That's all she wants to fucking know, is who the fuck this girl is. She does not care what the fuck is going on. She's scared to her britches, and she is trying to figure out what this girl is doing in her house, because she doesn't believe a fucking thing that Terry says, apparently. And I don't think she does either, because she says that later. However, this is when things get very interesting, because 11 says yes, she'll end up talking to her at some point in time, and then the lights start blinking. And that's when 11 starts getting the hint that Mama is leading her through the house, all right? But Becky says something interesting, and she tries to stray away that, oh, it's nothing, it's just the wiring in the house. And then she says that her great Aunt Shelley says that this house is haunted. So she tries to make it seem like this house is in her family, okay? And we do not know if this is truly Terry's sister. So maybe that is a truthful statement right there, that this house is strictly associated with Becky and Becky only. And whoever Becky is, I'm almost guaranteed we are going to figure that out in season 5, because I am almost positive that we are going to see Mama again, and we are going to see Mama have some involvement this time. I'm really truly hoping so. However, this is when 11 figures out that Mama wants to talk, okay? And Becky does not believe this whatsoever, and she's looking like she's never seen anything like this before, okay? So that's a little interesting that she's looking like she's never seen something like this whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, that TV goes on and she gets the living shit scared out of her, okay? So that's a little bit more proof that Becky might not know too much about these powers, or maybe has never seen this happen in person. So maybe she's not involved with Hawkins Lab directly as an employee there, but maybe she's somebody that is connected with somebody that does work at Hawkins Lab. So the next thing we see is when we get the story from Mama, and that's when 11 thinks she's trying to show her collie. But the thing that confirms that Becky is lying through her fucking teeth is the very first scene, and that is why Mama says breathe, is because Becky was the one telling her to breathe. So Becky was there with Mama before she had to go to the hospital, okay? And Mama trusted Becky, because you can tell how Mama acts in that scene, that she does listen to Becky to breathe, okay? And then it clips to Mama giving birth, and that Brenner was there during that birth, okay? We do not see Becky in that scene. However, when Mama wakes up and Becky is standing there, okay, Becky instantly starts to act as if this baby is gone, and she tries to put this into Terry's mind almost instantly, all right? And as soon as Terry disagrees, that's when Becky tries to instantly just stray away and confuse the fuck out of Mama, all right? And she tries to get up and hold her down and try and keep her held down. She calls in the nurses almost instantly, all right? And then that's when we get that weird scene where Mama gets stabbed by a syringe, all right? And I'm almost positive that that was done by Becky herself. Because if you look at that and watch it kind of slow and keep pausing it, it kind of looks like Becky's holding her down on that one side. And when it clips to that real quick, it kind of looks like the area that Becky would be holding her, not where those doctors are. And it's a little odd. And it makes you think that if Becky is involved, Becky would have something from Hawkins Lab like they normally do, because we see that again in season 4 when 11's at the Nina Project and she's about to leave and Brenner stabs her in the neck with that same style of a syringe, okay? The same type of liquid, I mean. That reminds me almost identical to that same situation, okay? When Mama got stabbed and when 11 got stabbed. It kind of makes you think, why are they putting hints involving Brenner, and then all the way back in seasons 1 and 2 involving Little Miss Aunt Becky? So basically the next scene is when they are talking and she's trying to tell her the girl that she saw. And this is when it gets interesting again, is that 11 mentions a room that Terry walked into. She does not say the rainbow room, all right? And then all of a sudden, Little Miss Aunt Becky says, what? The rainbow room? So you tell me why the fuck Little Miss Aunt Becky knows what the rainbow room is if she has no involvement with this Hawkins Lab and with what's going on, and also what happened to Terry. How does she know what the rainbow room is specifically? She should not know what that is unless she is employed and has an ID badge, because we know that from Terry's story that she would have not been able to get all the way up in that area unless she had an ID badge, because that security guard that Terry shot asked for an ID badge because she was about to walk in with the other employees, okay? So Becky must have had an ID badge at some point in time, and she must know what that room is because she has to be employed, people. It makes no sense to me that she's not an employee of Hawkins Lab and knows what the rainbow room is. It makes no sense at all. So they're talking, and she shows her files, okay, trying to figure out which girl she saw, all right? Because all 11 says is she looks different. And Becky knows exactly where to look in those files, and she knows exactly where that missing child file is. And when 11 shows her that it's Collie, she gets real quiet, and she has no reaction whatsoever. So the fact that she's extremely quiet all of a sudden is a little odd to me, and I don't really understand it too much. But the thing that's weird is when they go to find Kali, okay, and they're right by the TV again with the static, and she's trying to find her, all right? She can't find her in that moment. And I want to put something on you as well. It's a little odd to me that she can't find her while she's sitting in front of Mama and also sitting in front of Aunt Becky. Because if Becky is lying, maybe Mama is doing something to stop 11 from seeing Kali or finding Kali while Becky is there. Because the next time we see 11 is when she's in her bedroom alone and she's trying to find Kali with the picture, and she's able to do it, okay? And that's what's interesting about those scenes, is that she finds Kali while Aunt Becky is in the other room and not while Aunt Becky is breathing down her fucking neck trying to get all this info, okay? The only thing that's left in these scenes, and the last time we see Little Miss Aunt Becky, is when she is on the phone with who we think to know is Flo. And that's what's weird about this entire situation, is that she's on the phone with who we know to be is Flo, and that's who works at the police station. She even says on the phone that Hopper gave her the number. So it's a little odd that she is calling somebody that she says is Flo. But I have this thought that this is a deflection and a lie from Hawkins' lab so that Becky can call Hawkins without 11 getting spooked and knowing that she is about to get caught up. I truly fucking think. So let me know your thoughts about that as well. So 11 ends up walking in trying to say she found Kali, and she ends up hearing this conversation, and that causes her to end up running away again to go find Kali on her own. And that's when Becky gets extremely fucking nervous, and she runs out and she's yelling for 11, and that's the last time we see her. So with all that being said, people, at the end of the day, I truly fucking think that this woman has been lying through her teeth the entire time, and each time we have seen her. I truly fucking think that she's just lying about everything. And my true thoughts is that she's working for Hawkins' lab and that she is an employee. However, I don't think that she is an employee that works directly with those children, because the way she acts around 11 is that she's extremely scared and that she's extremely nervous when she sees these things happen. She doesn't understand them whatsoever. So my honest thought after thinking this all the way through, people, is that she definitely is employed by Hawkins' lab, but she also is probably related to somebody at Hawkins' lab. And I'm going to leave you with this, and I want to know your thoughts about this entire situation, okay? I want to know if you truly think that the name Becky Brenner sounds fucking fabulous, because would it not be crazy if we figure out that maybe Papa actually does have a daughter that is the caretaker of Mama, who's trying to make sure that Mama does not wake up from this long fucking dream that she's in? Does it not sound like it could make sense? I want to know your thoughts. This was a lot longer than I expected, but I love the name Becky Brenner, and I think it flows swimmingly. So let me know your thoughts at your boy Brandon DLA Alternative. And with all that being said, I think this woman is lying through her teeth, and I do not think anything she ever said was truthful. So like I said, let me know your thoughts at your boy Brandon DLA Alternative. I love each and every single one of you. Keep subscribing, keep liking, and following the journey, and you already know we out.